Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Morning Western Roundup. I am your host, Graham Nolan, talking Westerns on a Saturday morning. Today, we're going to talk about the 1930 Raoul Walsh film, The Big Trail. Now, this is an oldie. This one begins, it's really at the beginning of the sound age. But this film is about 20 years ahead of its time, because it was filmed in 70 millimeter widescreen. Only a few films had been shot this way. This is the last one to be shot in widescreen. And that's why I say it's 20 years ahead of its time, because it took 20 years after this film in 1950 for widescreen to be used again. This was the movie that was supposed to make John Wayne a star. Up till this point, he was basically a prop man. That's a guy who used to lift furniture and props and stuff and set them on set. He was young, big, strong guy, and he got noticed by Raoul Walsh moving around this heavy furniture and stuff like it was nothing. And so he asked him to be in this film, and he says, I've got very little to no experience. And Raoul Walsh said, well, just if you can look good sitting on a horse and point, you'll be fine. Unfortunately, this film bombed at the box office. The main reason was because it was in widescreen. In the theaters, this is during the Depression, the theaters couldn't afford to convert their screens to accommodate the 70 millimeter print. So they either didn't take the movie or they had to show it in a format that it wasn't designed for. And, if you've ever seen films on TV that were in letterbox, half the stuff is missing. And particularly when you're doing an outdoor film like The Big Trail, you miss a lot. It's like watching Lawrence of Arabia. If you've ever seen Lawrence of Arabia on TV, back before they used to show things in widescreen and in letterbox, I mean, there's characters riding in the distance that you can't see because they're just cut off the screen. So that was a problem for this movie. This is the last of the films that was shot in what was called 70 millimeter grandeur film. Each studio had their own title, their own sort of copyrighted techniques, like Technicolor, VistaVision. They all had to brand their own, but Fox's was grandeur film is what it was called. This is a very historically accurate movie, right down to the costumes, the food that the people are eating, even the wagons being pulled by oxen instead of horse on the Oregon Trail. This movie, it's funny because it is called 70 millimeter grandeur, and this film is loaded with it, grandeur. It almost feels like you're watching a documentary of something that was made during the Oregon Trail, because of there's things you'll see in this movie you've never seen in other films. For example, imagine you are a settler in these land schooners, as they used to call them, the wagons. The land is all over the place. You've got to cross rivers, you've got to cross mountains, you've got to cross ravines. What happens when you get to the point where, the land stops and, you got to get down? Well, they showed that kind of stuff. What they would have to do was to lower the wagon trains down, a very dangerous prospect, so they would have to cut down trees and build pulley systems and with ropes and stuff to lower all those wagon trains down and all of their gear. It's the kind of stuff that we don't have to think about. We never think about this kind of thing, but these kind of settlers had to do this. The women and children, obviously, they're sitting on the side. They've climbed down safely, and the men are hauling this shit down there. All their gear, their animals, everything has to be lowered down to get to the next level where they had to go. Sometimes there were accidents. Ropes would break, stuff would fall. Here's another shot. But look at these vistas. This is not a green screen or any kind of digital effect or anything. This was the land when that was available to shoot, without any telephone poles, without any airplanes going by, nothing in 1930. And that's what makes this film so amazing to watch for me, is that you really feel what it's like. There's no shortage of animals or people in the background. There's no faking anything. And because they shot it in 70 millimeter, everything is huge. Everything is on the screen. Figures seem very small in some places, which is kind of cool because, we think we're so big, but, it's part of the humbling aspect is how small we are compared to the land, around us. So, let's see. Yeah, here's another shot. This movie was shot all on location too. It was shot in 7 different states, and it cost Fox a ton. Like I said, there's no shortage of material, no shortage of extras, no shortage of wagons and horses and oxen and all that kind of stuff. None of it is faked. It's all right there on the screen. Another reason why it's just so cool. Now, it is 1930, and there's some sound limitations. The mic is picking up everything, so there's no soundtrack. It can be slow in places. The plot, you've got 2 plots going on, basically. John Wayne's character is going to help lead this wagon train across the Oregon Trail, these settlers, but he's got a score to settle with this guy, played by Tyrone Power Sr. This guy just chews up as much scenery as there is in this movie. He chews it all. He's really over the top. He was a stage actor, and it shows. He is playing to the back row in every scene he's in. In fact, he reminds me so much, his character, the way he talks and everything. He sounds just like Bluto from the Popeye cartoons, from the Max Fleischer Popeye cartoons. And I have to wonder how much of Bluto's personality was taken from this guy. The hard thing to think about is Tyrone Power Sr. was the father of this good-looking guy. Tyrone Power, I guess, I don't know if he was a junior or something, but they just called him Tyrone Power. And, he was Zorro, a swashbuckling, good-looking man. The apple did fall far from this tree. But let's see. Oh, if you're going to watch this, this movie was also shot in 35 millimeter. And for years and years and years, the 35 millimeter was all that there was available. But as of 2012, a restored Blu-ray version came out, and it's available. And you got to get that one. You got to watch the 70 millimeter Blu-ray. It's fantastic. It's not expensive, but definitely worth it. Let me see if I covered everything here. Yeah, I think the acting in this film is, it's somewhat dated. As I said, it plods a little bit from a story element standpoint, but you can't take your eyes off the screen. I mean, it's so worth watching this movie just for all the great photography in it. And the stuff that's going on in the backgrounds, So if there's a slow scene where, people are just yammering on about stuff, just look in the background, because it's worth every second. John Wayne is green as hell in this. He hadn't developed his personality, his screen personality yet. The walk, he walks like a football player in this. He hadn't established that walk that, in fact, he watched himself in this movie and he couldn't stand the way he looked walking across the screen. And so he talked to his pal, Paul Fix, who, and there's a nice, there's our Star Trek connection. Paul Fix played the Doctor in the second Star Trek pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before. But Paul Fix was a great friend of John Wayne, and also he was Sheriff Micah Torrance in The Rifleman. But he's the one who told John Wayne, when you walk, point your toe down, and that's how he started to develop that iconic walk of his. His line delivery is it's kind of funny at times. You can tell he hasn't learned his craft yet, but you could also see there's a magnetism to this guy, that this guy had whatever that it factor is, that undefinable thing that makes the difference between an actor and a star on a screen. This guy had it. And eventually he worked on the acting chops and became, very, very good. He had to toil for 9 more years. They thought this was going to be the one that launched his career, and it didn't because it bombed. So he went to work for Republic Pictures and toiled in the Singin' Sandy films and, these cheapo Westerns, basically kiddie Western type stuff. And, it took 9 years for him to get rediscovered and put into John Ford's classic 1939 film, Stagecoach. And then that's the one that elevated him up into A-level films that he would be offered, pretty much for the rest of his career. So I think you can watch this for free on YouTube, but I suggest you get the Blu-ray just so you can have it. It's a historical film that you really should own if you like Westerns. So that's it. Let's say good morning to folks that are in here. I had a feeling this was going to be a small crowd because this is an old movie, and I suspect not a lot of people have seen it. So good morning, Jasper. Good to see you. Victor Thomas, good morning. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast. Hail, amigos, and hail you, sir. Hillary, good morning, Hillary. It's an astonishing film. The Cliff. Yeah, I mean, to me, that is the most memorable scene. I couldn't take my eyes off that sequence. There's a great scene in Stagecoach too, which I thought was really great, where the camera was put up, and they had to get the stagecoach across this creek or river, and they had to tie these wood logs to it so that it would float. And then the team leader would try to lead the horse across the water, and then the guys sitting up on the coach took little stones and they were throwing them at the horses, to keep them going to swim across the creek. It's those little things in these old Westerns that I love to see, like what our ancestors had to overcome to overcome nature, basically, which we don't think about today. We put it in 4-wheel drive and we blast through, or we drive over a bridge or whatever, but these guys had to come up with real solutions. Neon Todd Studio, good morning. Good morning. Stat Zero is here. Good morning. Okay. That's everybody, I think. As I said, a small crowd tonight, or this morning. Okay, so that will wrap up our Saturday morning Western Roundup for the Big Trail. Next week, I actually be on convention trail for the first time since this COVID has hit. This will be the first convention I've done in well over a year. So I'll be in Fort Myers, so there will not be a Western Roundup next week. Tuesday for the storytellers, I have Tom Richmond on. Tom is a incredible Mad Magazine artist, has been working for them for years. So we're going to talk about Mad Magazine and his influences and, you know, cartooning and all that kind of fun stuff. So that'll be a good show when Tuesday night. It's going to be Tuesday because the boss, the producer, Julia's birthday is Wednesday. So there'll be no show Wednesday. So that about wraps that up, gang. I shall see you Tuesday night for the Storytellers, and thanks for tuning in this morning. We'll see you. Bye-bye.